Alright guys, SuchGrub here, back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday, and I got a couple of feedback over the last couple of days saying, you know, maybe I should slow down how quickly I speak in videos, which honestly, I'm going to try and do maybe, but I find it kind of challenging. Sometimes as I'm just struggling now, right, to keep on a level playing field. I don't feel like I talk too quickly in real life, but when a video comes around, for some reason my mind just works really quickly, and I just speak really quickly. I can try to calm it down, or if you guys think that, you know, just keep up with the cracked out pace, like Sypien or Beezy, then I can do that as well. I'm just intrigued to hear your thoughts on that, really. But regardless, today I wanted to talk about legitimate tournaments in the upcoming season. In a traditional season, let's say in Black Ops 4, we've had like 6 tournaments, say, where every team is there and every team has a good chance to win, and the best team on the weekend wins the weekend event. However, this season, of course, we've got weekend events, but not every team is going to be attending every single weekend. And of course, that causes issues with looking back on this season and potentially upcoming seasons. What counted as a proper tournament? Do you win an official championship when you win one of these weekends? I don't really think so. And to what degree does it matter which teams are actually present on each weekend? For example, let's say a team like the Minnesota Rokkr wins a weekend event, like, very well done. Are they now championship winners? Are Asim and Alex championship winners? You know, doubtful. Then again, though, if they win on a weekend where the Empire, Atlanta FaZe, Chicago Huntsmen are all in attendance, then is that a legitimate win because they're beaten what are considered to be the best teams in the game? And if they win on a weekend, which that's not the case, you know, have they actually officially won a tournament? Be really intrigued to hear your thoughts down below. Gonna discuss that in a few minutes' time. So like if you guys enjoy the video, I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff more than a lot of people realize. Subscribe if you're new as well, as always. Let's go into that, and just first of all, the 2K happened yesterday in the North American region, finished off Spacely's team, ended up winning it, so that's Pharaoh, Parasite, Spartan, Prolute. Unfortunately, no streams of this, it just is what it is right now, the state of Call of Duty. No one wants to give away any secrets in advance of Minnesota, given that this team is arguably the best going into it. Found this pretty mental here. Spacely's only 22 as he replies to Zach, which is pretty outrageous. It feels like Spacely's a lot older than that. He's been around a very long time. This is the overall results then, so this is the team that came first, beating Emerald City. We've got some other teams here, of course, the UIU team that's been pretty good, and the FaZe Academy down here as well, making things pretty competitive. There was also this other tournament that went on yesterday, the National Gaming Event Season 8. Atheim Gaming came out with the win, so Onyx, Paul, some well-known S&D stars here that you guys might be aware of. Team 6th Gear as well, with Fastballer and some other big names. They ended up coming third, and that Team Divine squad, which I believe we looked at the formation of yesterday, they came in the top 8 finish. So a few other things to mention here. Just wanted to talk about this. Given it's Call of Duty related to a degree, Semler has decided to leave the Overwatch League, a very well-known caster formerly of CSGO. More than likely, he will return to CS, but who knows, right? But, you know, he may be considering other options. Similar, very, well-known and reputable caster, especially throughout Counter-Strike. I think it's not like he fell out with the community, but people in the community started not to particularly rate him, and then he decided to leave and go to Overwatch, and now he's clearly decided to put that behind him. So we'll have to see exactly what direction he takes next, but keep that in mind, given the Overwatch League has lost quite a bit of talent over the last few weeks. Like Puckett, we've talked about quite a bit, Semler, Monte Cristo. So it's going to be intriguing to see exactly what happens with the Call of Duty League, given they are so closely related, given Activision Blizzard runs both of them. Legion Z, and I believe Journey did a tweet similar to this, saying he's just flying out to Atlanta now. But Zed says, travel to LA begins today. 1 week of practice before Minnesota. Not ideal, but I have faith in the boys. I think there were some issues with the Paris team that Zed is on to do with visas and stuff like that. So apparently they're based in Los Angeles, even though they are, of course, you know, playing for the Paris Legion. But, you know, it is going to be very interesting to see how this works. 1 week of practice before Minnesota. Not ideal at all for Paris. And I think London haven't had the most practice either, but at least they've been getting some scrims in. And, like, 1 week of practice is just tragic when you think about some of the top teams that have been playing the game for so long and have everything down to a T. And I'll probably finish out this video with a clip that I saw yesterday on Reddit, which is, you know, pretty outrageous in terms of a bomb check spot. I've seen a few people use similar things to this, such as Tupac Thuglord. Really doesn't make too much sense. And those are the kind of things that you're not going to have your finger on when you haven't been playing the game too much and haven't been practicing. So not the best situation for Paris. I'm not going to put any money on them, let's put it that way, into this Minnesota weekend. We'll talk about that in a second. Thought this was kind of funny as well. Given what we talked about yesterday, Modern Warfare, not in my opinion being esports ready, Infinity Ward will be adding a 6th row to the kill feed, baby. Just what we all asked for. No changes to the spawns, nothing like that. Of course, apparently the slide cancel has been fixed, but that was a bug anyway, so you'd expect it to be fixed. The things that aren't bugs and that are issues with the game that we talked about yesterday, the headshot multiplier was another issue with the game, which I didn't even get into yesterday, for thanks to some of you guys in the comment section below for pointing that out. But yeah, 6th row in the kill feed, you love to see it. But yeah, big change maybe not exactly happening anytime soon. So here we go then, this is what I wanted to say. These are some of the key players, and of course there's more players than just this. I guess on the Dallas Empire you can look at Shotzi and Ely, maybe you can look at Frosty. Players that have been around a long time and haven't won a championship in Call of Duty. So these are some of the big ones that I thought up. So, Envoy maybe isn't as big as you guys think, but given the team he's on the Huntsmen, and I guess he's only been around for 1 season. But who can tempt, especially big names that, never won a championship in Call of Duty, but have been around since the Advanced Warfare days and been, pretty prominent throughout the last couple of seasons when they've been back to playing since World War II. Then Havoc and Morks, of course, on the Gen G team of last season, and you can definitely throw in, like, Major Maniac in there as well. Some other players, I guess, Skies and Frosty. Frosty could be a kind of big one. These are individuals that haven't won a championship in Call of Duty. The question is, in the upcoming season, what counts as a championship? We have, I believe, 13 weekends. We'll have a look at it in a second, starting from Minnesota and then ending, of course, at the Call of Duty World Championship, where, that's a proper championship. There's double elimination. There's these kind of things going on. That's definitely a proper championship. Whoever wins champs is the world champion. Of course, we've always had that throughout Call of Duty history. I do think that in previous seasons, the way it's been organised is kind of strange. So, for example, let's look at the last season. We only had 1 season in terms of, we just had 1 playoffs at the end of the season. And then we had champs just after that. It seems odd to me how we had playoffs last season, the best 8 teams in the world. United, surprise, surprise, won that tournament and, ended up going on to win the World Championship. But the World Championship just a couple of weeks later is basically all the playoffs teams, plus another 24 teams, the other 8 teams from the league, and then 16 of the best amateurs teams. Seems interesting to me that you have the championship with more teams than the playoffs, of which the winners are both the same regardless. So it always seemed like an interesting structure for me, and now it's going to be weekend events and then a world championship. So it probably does feel, I guess, like a world championship, because you could argue last season that playoffs was as much like the world championship as the world championship itself, apart from all the scale and all this kind of things, in terms of the best teams being there and they only being a few weeks apart, with nothing in between. A couple of players also from the European region, of course, Scraps and Rated, right? These guys never won a championship. The only championship that Europe has won in the modern region was Splice in Infinite Warfare Stage 1 playoffs, which was Jerd, Bance, Madcat, and Zero. So they have won a championship, but Scraps, of course, a very reputable and well-known player, considered to be one of the best players in Black Ops 4, not yet won a championship, and Rated, arguably the player that's come closest in his career to winning so many championships, but just hasn't quite made it, especially throughout World War II and, Black Ops 3 coming as a runner-up at the World Championship. And, World War II, of course, that Red Reserve team was very good. And even in the Black Ops 4 season, they had their moments, right? So these are some of the individuals that you can keep your eyes out for. If London, if Mutineers, if Subliners, because Huntsmen and Empire you would expect to win one of these weekends. The other teams, maybe it's somewhat up in the air. But if they win, does this count as an official championship? That's your call, and I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. So here we go then. This is what it looks like in terms of the weekend events. I'll just show you this real quick just to get a flavour. So we've got the launch weekend in Minnesota. Make sure this is fitting all on screen. Then we've got London, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Dallas, Chicago, Florida, Seattle, Minnesota, Paris, London, New York, and Toronto, followed by the World Championships. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 weekends, launch weekends, and then the World Championships. That's 14 weekends, as you can see, I guess, right here. So 13. They're not including, of course, the World Championship on this one. So you just got 13, the opening weekend, and then all the other ones. The crosses in this box on COD Gamepedia, cod/esports.gamepedia. Leave that link down below if you guys are interested to check it out. Great website right now. The guys over there are doing a phenomenal job. So the crosses are where these teams are not playing for that weekend. So for example, week number 2, Atlanta FaZe, Mutineers, Rokkr and OpTic Gaming LA are not in London, but the rest of the teams are. Let's just have a look through it from a different perspective here. Atlanta FaZe, Chicago Huntsmen, Dallas Empire. Let's say they are the top 3 teams of the season. There's really no disputing it. They're the undisputed, top dogs, right? So week 6, for example, all these 3 teams are there. as they are in week 9, as they are in week 13. All these teams are present. So let's just look at this real quick. So week 6 would be starting from here, I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in Chicago, they're all there. In Minnesota, they're all there. And then in Toronto, all those teams are there. So the question is, right, let's say you are, for example, let's look at week 6, you're, I don't know, at London Royal Ravens, and you win the event. There's only 8 teams there. Let's say week 6, right, there's no Mutineers, there's no Rokkr, there's no Paris Legion, there's no Toronto Ultra, which is a really high-class field, because these teams you're eliminating are teams with maybe the exception of Minnesota Rokkr, are not expected to be so good. Let's say the Royal Ravens go in, and they win this week 6, the championship weekends. They beat FaZe, they beat Huntsmen, they beat Empire in however fashion it has to happen, maybe in the groups or in the championship grand finals, whatever. They go on to win that weekend, where Mutineers, Rokkr, Legion and Ultra were not present. The question is, if these 4 teams I've just mentioned not being present, they probably weren't going to win the weekend anyway. Now, you know, I'm just saying this hypothetically. These teams, of course, could be in practice very, very good indeed. But hypothetically, let's say these teams aren't very good, and the key teams to beat are FaZe, Huntsmen and Empire. London Royal Ravens win that weekend. Does that then count as, you know, a championship victory on their part? You know, does that count for scraps and rated like, you know, winning a Fort Worth or winning an Anaheim or winning a whatever in a previous season? They've beaten, yes, they've only been the best out of 8 teams rather than traditionally you'd have to be the best out of 16, for example, in the previous season, not really considering the amateur teams. But now you have a situation where, you know, you've only got to be the better of the teams that are actually present on the day. And if the worst teams aren't present, in theory, does that count as a championship? Compare that, for example, to week 7, where the Huntsmen and the Empire aren't even there. And then, let's say London Royal Ravens were to win week 7. All you've beaten is FaZe. Let's say Empire are considered to be the best team in the game, or Huntsmen, however it turns out. Do you then consider that a championship because maybe their main contenders weren't there? That's the question I have for you guys. Does it depend on the weekends? Which teams are present? I'm sure that will be how it works throughout the season. People will say, like, Minnesota Rokkr won that weekend, but, Empire wasn't there. So let's see in this coming weekend whether Empire can get their revenge and prove that they are still the top dogs, right? That's a question. At the end of the day, if all these, if the best teams are present and another underdog team goes on and beats them, I guess we're only going to be able to see what the best teams are as we get several weeks into the season. But definitely a question to keep the back of your mind on. I guess the other theory that you could have going into this is like, look, there's only 8 teams present. The entire league isn't even there. It doesn't count as a proper championship. It's a minor championship at best. Is it the equivalent to one of the old school, like, online tournaments almost, where all the best teams would play, but it was online? Does it count to the same degree? Is the World Championship the only championship in the season that you properly consider a championship? You can argue as such. I would like not to do that, but if anything, it's 3/4 of a championship for me. But if Scraps wins a championship, I will genuinely be considering which teams they had to face up against to make that happen. If they had to play the best teams in the game and they beat them, then I'm considering Scraps a chip winner, I suppose. But you guys might have a different thought process down in the comment section below. Be interested to hear it. Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
We're planting the bomb. Bomb planted. Time starts now.
Yo, you know he's tight after that one, chat.